Descenders is, by and large, a very easy game to get into. To say this particular game is easily digestible is an understatement, because Descenders is the type of game that you can play on the side on a second monitor whilst you do literally anything else, and you can still get the full experience. In playing this game, you can tell the developers rage quit have put numerous hours into crafting the perfect experience that stays from you from your first ride all the way up to your millionth, so let's descend right into this fucking review. Alright, so, yeah. The website I used to write for and put the reviews on before I put them here, Sidemission blog has expired. It's gone. Yep. Oh. So I launched my own. ItsScottish.net. There'll be a link in the description to this review. Now, here's the funny things about Descenders. Descenders is two things that I usually avoid. Firstly, it's an independent game, as I've always had the misfortune of buying an indie game to find out that it's either extremely experimental and not in the Hideo Kojima way, or it's just not what I expected. Alternatively, it can be a completely blatantly unfinished game that was spun out of Steam Early Access. Fortunately, Descenders is none of this. I went in thinking, ooh, fun little trial bite game, and that's what I got. No ifs and no buts to be found anywhere. The other thing that this game has going for it that I tend to avoid is a game made in Unity Engine, as most games that I've found built with Unity Engine are unfortunately asset flips from absolute hack developers who take assets from the Unity Engine store and Frankenstein monster them together as quickly as possible to push them out the door as bargain bucket prices to make a quick buck and return on the assets that they bought, just to do it all over again. Other times, however, they are good games that just seem to have a myriad of issues that run the lifespan of the game, but I can safely say Descenders is none of that. So let's go over the technical side of the review now. Specifications. So let's start off with the game's own system requirements in PC. The minimum recommendations are an Intel Core i5. That's it, just an Intel Core i5. And the GPU is an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 550 equivalent or higher. The recommended is even better because it just says a high range Intel Core i5. And then an NVIDIA GTX 760 or equivalent or higher. Both requiring 4 and 8GB of RAM respective. Now these are the specifications on the Steam page, and you can see why they're a little bit of a head scratcher, because it's just an Intel Core i5. That's not giving you a rough estimate. Is it saying Core i5 Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4, what generation? Yeah, I initially counted Gen 1 to Gen 10. So it should come as no surprise that a Core i7 7700K, a GTX 1080 and 32GB of RAM done exceptionally well. In the business, that's called foreshadowing. So as you can see, my system's not exactly top of the shelf material anymore, but it can comfortably stream this game, and to be honest, if I could do more testing I would, but unfortunately, though made of them, money doesn't grow on trees. Actually, UK money's polymer now, so not even made of fucking trees. Now, specifications as vague as they are, we can still go into more detail when we talk about the performance. So where do we begin? Let's start with the buttery smooth 144 FPS, even in the highest graphical fidelity, because this game is just optimised and looks amazing. It's like the developers took all the beauty of the Cry engine and all the tender loving care that was given to Doom 2016 and just produced sheer perfection. I can safely say in the 70 plus hours that I've put into this game that the tally for this game crashing, freezing or having any issues? 0. So as alluded to earlier, there is just one tiny little problem in one tiny little place, and that's that some of the bike parks that are added can cause a lower frame rate than others, but this is due to the sheer volume of these parks. Each park that gets added is bigger than the previous park, includes more ramps, has more terrain to cover, has more props, and atop this, some of them are just more popular than others, meaning that there's more stuff to be rendered, and therefore when streaming these particular parks, you can see sub 60 FPS. Of course, very easy fix. Just drop the graphical fidelity a bit, the game still looks absolutely amazing on low. So let's take a little look at a benchmark I ran on high. Now this benchmark was for 30 minutes. The minimum frame rate, half a frame. I am 100% sure this happened when I was loading into a level, because the 1% and 0.1% minimums are exactly the same. The average, however, 222.7. That was whilst playing. The maximum was 526.9, and I can guarantee that was during a loading screen. The takeaway from this should be that that's over 200 frames on high. Now I'm going to make some weird statements about the gameplay, but you just gotta hold on whilst we get there, because trust me, it'll make sense. Right, so here's the thing. We can't not talk about the gameplay, because in my opinion, the gameplay is all this game's got going for it. This is where all these Doom 2016 sort of analogies are going to come from, because you'll see that it makes sense. Now if you know me, you know that I am an absolute huge fan of Doom, and just like the team at id Rage Squid knew what they were doing in this game in order to keep it as popular as it is, because if the gameplay isn't good, the game isn't good. It's actually really simple. All this game's got going for it is the gameplay. There's no story from what I can find. If there is a story, it's very minuscule, for lack of a better term. It's the only way I can look at it. So, when your game's got a backseat or non-existent story, your gameplay does need to go above and beyond any other thing in the game, because that's going to be your unique selling point. You got to keep the people engaged, and this can be done in one or two ways. The first way is to make the gameplay fun, fluid, and fascinating. You essentially want to keep the people going and keep them hanging on for the next bit, but don't keep them going too long, else it'll go horrible. Alternatively, you can make the gameplay easy, awe-inspiring, extremely easy to learn, but really difficult to master, essentially. If you're Rage Squid, you've attained both of these aspects and managed to put them together. Like, I can be sitting watching a film or talking to a friend or working if I was brazen enough and still enjoy this game 100%. It's that easy. It's actually too easy. The game's so simple it doesn't actually require your full attention. That's what makes it amazing. It's easy, awe-inspiring. You can sit and do whatever the fuck you want and still understand what's going on. This game, from what I can recall from one of my sort of conversations with one of the developers, is kind of inspired by the Skate series of games. Drive with the trigger, steer with the analog stick, do everything else with this. You can also modify it with a bumper. The sort of harder part in it all is mastering that. It just comes down to you and how far you're willing to push it. Now, I said this game was awe-inspiring, and you might be thinking, well, where's the awe? I'm yet to hear any. So, how about a triple backflip Superman over a fucking canyon? A 360 backflip no-hander whilst flying over a moving train through a burning ring of fire. How about jumping from one mountain, backflipping onto a ramp suspended in air by a helicopter, using that to then do another double backflip, maybe in no-hander front flip or Superman, to the next mountain. Is that inspiring yet? Now, we should talk about the levels. Now, there are 4 types of levels within the standard career mode, if you will. There's Highlands, which is just dirt tracks, rocks, grass, some stone features, and an occasional tree or two. Nice, simple country road stuff, and from here you're going to move into the forest. Extremely steep dirt tracks with twists, turns, high berms, shit ton of wooden ramps, and the fucking trees. Go slow. The only advice I can give you is go slow, because you want to save all your lives from there to go into Canyon, which is next after, which is just dirt roads, downhill, dirt jumps. It's like something straight out of a western, really. It's really nice. You can rack up extremely high scores and get plenty of stuff going. It's absolutely perfect. And then we're going to move on to peaks, and every level in peaks starts from a helicopter jump. So front flips are advised, but from there it's all just steep downhill action down the snowy tundra, where even the slightest little bump is going to send you airborne and at 100 miles an hour straight into a rock. Yeah, it's kind of good though, it's rather fun. Now every biome, as I'm calling it, has 8 types of blip. A standard track, a sponsored track, a locked first person track, a special track, the fire node, the medic camp, the danger zone, and last but certainly not least, the boss zone. Now most standard tracks are indicated by their little grey circle, and in that you'll get a little info box. These info boxes have 3 bars to help you gauge your preferred track. You'll have a steepness, a stunts, and a curves. It's really easy. Depending on what you like, you get to pick how much of it is there out of the multiple little blips it gives you that you can access at that point. This is there for most of them, apart from the boss tracks, and I believe these are special tracks. You should always expect the boss tracks to be a little hard and the special tracks to actually be completely different. For example, in Highlands, the special track isn't a track, but it's a construction site that you have to get to the top of. In the forest, it's a mega ramp that you got to score 5,000 points off of in one go. So it's all just a little different. It doesn't exactly tell you how hard it is, because these are really only as hard as you make them. Of course, now certain sort of things are going to add to the boss track. For example, if you use the fire node, then the boss track will have a hoop suspended in air that's on fire, and you get extra points for going through said ring of fire. That's where additional precision would come into play for that final jump. Now, I don't want to spoil too much surprises, but we're going to finally hit a medic camp here. Now, a medic camp's going to give you extra lives just for completing it. Most other tracks have a little additional thing at the top that says, finish the track without letting go of acceleration, do a double backflip. That's going to get you an extra life. You'll also get an extra life just for completing the medic camp, which is good. You can also pick from one of the 3 sponsors available and do their preferred sponsor track as well. Each of them has their own sort of little objectives to help you rank up in there. For example, the team that I was initially sponsored with, Enemy, is all about stunts. So they're going to want you to do 10 wheelies for 5 seconds over multiple tracks. It all helps build individual skill, but there's no performance upgrades in this game. Every bike is just cosmetic, every piece of clothing is just cosmetic. You're not going to get any particular buff from having any particular thing. It's just down to you and your own metal. How far are you willing to push certain tracks, push yourself, and see how far you can go at the end. So the gameplay is pretty intense. Like a lot of good games, this game's going to start off slow and easy into the flow of things nice and easily, and then it's just going to get a little harder and a little harder. Maps are going to transition you from day to night to absolutely pitch black with no lights if you spend too long in them. You can even get tracks that are just open fields with rocks, compass, and it's saying, find the exit. I hate those ones the most. It may seem like I'm kind of overselling this game, but there's really not much to talk about outside of the gameplay, but the gameplay's so solid that all I can do is talk about it, and it's good. So I'm not really overselling it as much as I'm selling it as much as possible. Now, I have skipped a few things like the bike parks, but what you gonna expect, really? This is already a pretty wordy section. What I will say is this isn't 20 different little self-contained maps. These are one big map. Some are quite technical tracks, others are very stunt-orientated, where it's all just kind of fun. Others are a little complicated, where it's a lot of stunt and a lot of technical at the same time, so you get to pick what you want. Overall, it is solid gameplay, so I can't really fault it. It's everything that I expected, and technically more. Story. I can't seem to find one. I would assume that you're just a guy at a mountain bike park who goes out in the trails and the biomes and just trying to have a good time, and then you end up getting sponsored from having a good time. You just make your way through the particular sponsor's ranks until you reach the top. It really is just speculation though. I actually cannot tell you what the story of this game is. Of course, like I said earlier, when your game takes a backseat story or has a non-existent story, the gameplay does need to go above and beyond, and as a result, I can honestly say if there is a story, I didn't notice one. Regardless, the career mode is absolutely spectacular and it can be challenging. I really cannot recommend it enough. I'll just spend copious amounts of hours just sitting playing this game because it's easy, it's fun, and it's a good time waster. After the tutorial, that's it. The game's going to stop holding your hand, and from there you can go ahead and go straight into the bike parks and just start shredding like there's no tomorrow, or go through the sort of career mode, fire through that, collect all the lives, do insane stunts and test yourself, and then go into the career plus mode and do the same again, but even harder. The game is really quite simple and quite fun. It really is just like learning to ride a bike. Except I didn't fall as much. Now, I do just want to do a little sidebar here and talk about the developers, because I do feel Rage Squid are honestly quite good developers, so I'm just going to give you it straight. I've got about 30 hours in the game, it's about 11 o'clock, and I decide I'm just going to start streaming. So, I'm 2 beers in, I'm practically blotto at this point because I'm a lightweight, and I'm just streaming this game going at it. So, Spotify's blaring in my ears, alcohol's coursing through my system, chat's effectively dead, but I'm just going hard as a motherfucker. I'm enjoying this game. When out of the blue, Rage Squid starts talking in the chat. So, yeah. In all honesty, I'm just sitting there, and I'm not going to be too proud to admit, I was pretty fucking gone at that point. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wait, hold on, Rage Squid, that sounds familiar. Then a loading screen comes up, and I see it, Rage Squid. The developers are sitting in my fucking chat, and I'm like, oh, I see where this is going. But, in fact, we're just sitting there talking, playing, listening to music, having a laugh. The dude's like, oh man, let's play together. So, we're sitting, playing, having a laugh. Then, out of the blue, one of my friends, my moderator, he's like, this game seems not too bad, it seems alright. Dev's like, you on PC? And he's like, I'm on PC, mate. And he goes, check your DMs. The developer rose ages up and gave my moderator a free copy of the game. What the fuck, man? You don't normally hear that happen to someone who's pulling less than 10 viewers, but it happened. I wish I was making it up. I really do. Getting some insight from the developers as well, you realise just how much they actually care and worked on this game, and I can't recommend it enough. The effort they put into this game, atop from that, the streams that they often do where they share some of the wisdoms about the game that they have, as well as give you a sneak peek into the upcoming updates, is amazing. Like, honestly, not many developers would do that. Anytime there's going to be like a huge update that's going to change some things, or they're just showing off a new bike park, they're like, here's a 2 to 4 hour stream of us just playing it and talking. Like, it's amazing. Like right now, I know straight we're getting a new bike park and we're getting some new tricks, and we got to look at it on live stream as well as a Twitter video. And I do wish more developers were like this. Rage Squad are extremely transparent, which unfortunately most developers aren't. In my eyes, this game's a solid 10 out of 10. Like, the developers have worked hard to craft an experience that's going to stay with you, and you can enjoy this game if you're the most casual of gamers or the most hardcore of gamers. I have no gripes with it, and I can only highly recommend it, and I wish everybody would just play it. I spent £16 in the game, and I've spent almost 100 hours playing the game. If you work that out as a ratio, that's a really good ratio. It's not replayability at this point, but it's also not like a game as a service. It's just easy, fun, and quite frankly, it's challenging. Like, I've never played a game where I look at something and go, I'm going to try that and fuck it up, but go, I'm going to do it again. Like, I've never played a game that just makes me do that, because you always want to try and perfect everything you do. It's amazing. I would recommend that everybody do try this game, but please don't buy it on a grey market. Actually buy the game on Steam, okay? Xbox Game Pass, it's on there. It's cheap. That, you know, you get more games with the Xbox Game Pass than anything else. You can give it a try there. The game is also available on PS4. So, you know, you've got PS4, Xbox, and PC, and I believe there's also a Switch version coming soon. What more can I say bar play this game? It's a 10 out of 10. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in a wee bit. Enjoy. That's been it for me. And remember, if you stay past the credits, you might just get some bloopers. You might just get some bloopers. Enjoy. Bloopers. Enjoy. Bloopers. What? That wee light is fucking blinding. Get a little clapper just for this. Day 2. Fun. Who bashed the can? Who bashes cans? Prick. I'm too fucking hungover for this.